Welcome to Bill and Rob's An Excellent Adventure. I'm Bill Tilley.
And I am Rob Schulte. Bill, back at it again, monkeying around.
I know.
Having fun.
Yeah, we are. I've actually made sure that as this series is going along, I'm not sure I'll keep it up, but I've stopped shaving. Just want to try to get in the part.
Me too.
Feel a little more sympathy and empathy for our 8 brethren in this movie. So
yeah, we're both big bearded Boy Scouts over here. I don't know. I was trying to think of another B word, but...
Oh, well, that's dangerous, but okay.
Bill and Rob's Excellent Adventure. We're back monkeying around. I slipped on a banana peel, and here we are. Bill, I gotta say, we've reached the end of this initial trilogy. We've still got a handful more films to come, but I don't want to apologize because I don't do that. I mean, I do apologize when I need to, but like I said, we need to do the Planet of the Apes movies, and we haven't had much luck finding the gems, so to speak, in these first 3 movies. They're not terrible films.
No,
it's not like that. You know, the joy hasn't been sparked, like, say, when we watched 1979 Captain America, right?
Sure.
There are no watercolor doves in this movie.
No, there are no blue vans of justice with rockets shooting out the back of them to just kind of tickle your fun and nostalgia bone. No, this has been a different animal, so to speak, pun intended, watching these 3 films. So I know exactly where you're coming from.
Now, I have a feeling going forward that's going to change a little bit. You know, we're going to have these kind of psychedelic experiences going into the 1960s and 70s. And did the last Planet of the Apes movie, was that early 80s, I think?
The final sequel, I think it was right at the end of this. It was in the 70s. They all went out through the 70s. So I believe
because Planet of the Apes was 1968,
right.
Correct?
Yeah,
okay.
They don't make it into the 80s, I do not believe, but it's right there towards the end. So it's about a 10-year period.
Okay. Well, but we're not there yet. We're here, and we're learning. We talked about this last episode, that apparently Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is in the works.
Yes, that is its title as of this recording.
If it even gets made.
These days, you just never know. But I have a feeling it probably will be. Planet of the Apes is a viable franchise, and these movies did not do badly at the box office at all.
True.
So
True.
There is no reason at all why Hollywood will not fire up the ape franchise machine and fire another one at us.
Here's the thing. If this movie had more hijinks, and we'll talk about this later, but you just had my brain going down a moment here. Some of these apes needed like banana shooting guns or coconut guns or something very Robinson Crusoe.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, I got to agree with you. Let's peek behind the curtain, everybody. My wife and I, in the mornings to get ready for work, we watch a little cartoon to get ready, just to have some fun. And this morning was Batman versus Gorilla Grodd from the old Brave and the Bold cartoon. And every time I'm watching it, I'm just looking at this going, that's what I really wanted these movies to be. I really needed some of this ape warrior with, giant bananas and just going crazy, a little more wackiness to be involved with it. But, that's not exactly what we got with these movies. So there you go.
I'm so glad we're watching them.
Oh, yeah.
I got a lot to talk about. I think you and I are going to line up more on this one than on maybe any other movie we've watched. That'll make history. We'll see if it happens. I just have this psychic feeling that you and I are on the same page on a few things. So before we get to our classic segments, should I read the back of the box?
I think you should read the back of the box for the 2017 movie War for the Planet of the Apes. Take it away, Robs.
Now, one quick thing. War for the Planet of the Apes, not War of the Planet of the Apes,
nope.
Which a lot of people online seem to screw up.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. And I have a thought about which one of those titles I rather would have had, but we will get to that as well.
Well, grammatically, I think War 4 makes sense, but we got Dawn of, Rise of, Planet of, and War 4.
Mm-hmm.
Anywho, back of the box, here we go, 2017. Caesar and his apes are forced into a deadly conflict with an army of humans led by a ruthless colonel. After the apes suffer unimaginable losses, Caesar wrestles with his darker instincts and begins his own mythic quest to avenge his kind. As the journey finally brings them face to face, Caesar and the Colonel are pitted against each other in an epic battle that will determine the fate of both their species and the future of the planet. Wow. Did you get that from watching this movie? Quick hitter there.
I would just like to say that I wrote this down for Rob to read on this one, everybody, and the back of the box is a lie.
Yes.
It is a complete lie. It is one of those movies that somebody wrote it and didn't actually watch the movie that they wrote the synopsis about, because
they got some crib notes maybe from someone.
This back of the box is the movie we wanted, but it is not the movie we got.
And it's almost the movie we got.
It is.
Caesar faces off with like a special ops militia colonel. He goes on a journey to find the promised land with his monkey pals. And there's an evolution of the simian flu that I guess you could say determines the fate of the future of the planet. But it's not this grand scale situation that this back of the box would lead you to believe.
No, it is not a war between Caesar and the humans. It's not that kind of a conflict. It's not really a Caesar saves his people, because at the beginning of the movie, he essentially abandons them to go on a revenge quest to go and kill Woody Harrelson's colonel figure that has caused this problem. And they wind up as prisoners of war, the apes do, and the battle is kind of between the humans and another group of humans, which you don't see until the end of the movie. The apes are a little inconsequential at the end of this movie for me. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I hate to start out sounding disappointed, but unfortunately, I'm kind of disappointed from the get-go on this one. There are some good things in it, and we will get to that. But the back of the box, if you picked it up at the video store to take it home, that's not the movie you're going to get.
No, and I think it's interesting, and we will get into it, but the movie previous to this, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, sets up a completely different movie than we get here. You think, well, I mean, at the end, Caesar's like, we must prepare for war. And that doesn't happen. We get the beginning of this movie is special ops commando squad coming in to try and kill Caesar. And he kills his family instead. And then it's, yeah, like you said, Caesar's quest for revenge. And throughout this, we realize that it's not even the army, quote, it's some militia group that's pitted against the army. And yeah, the apes just get in the middle of it all.
Yeah, and it's strange because, like you said, at the end of Dawn, Caesar had rode in. He'd basically taken San Francisco, the parts of it that the humans had occupied. He had kind of kicked them around, and you kind of think, all right, it's time to dig in. He's got guns. He's got stuff. There will be a war coming, and we know the military's coming that way. But that this movie starts as they've all moved back into the woods. The apes are all back in. Now they have built fortifications, and they are armed. And it does feel a bit like a jungle excursion movie, like you would see in any other war movie at the very beginning. But it doesn't stay that way once you get past it. They've all just kind of gone back to living their ape lives that they had in the middle of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So it's a weird setup, almost like everything kind of had to backslide to one for some reason and to tell the story that they wound up telling, which is like a escape movie. And this is not Escape from the Planet of the Apes. That's a totally different movie.
Ape Escape. As much as I was kind of like let down on some of the piecemeal of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, it sets something up. And like you said, yeah, it resets to one, almost like a sitcom. If we would have gotten the movie that Dawn sets up, I think I would have retroactively probably liked Dawn better.
Agreed.
You know, like I think I would have been like, oh, this makes more sense if it went to this like larger scale war film. We kind of see this weird, maybe little tale of a band of the apes during the war. They take prisoners, time elapses, and it's like, oh, we forgot how we even got to this decades and decades later where humans are now under our control, yada, yada, yada. But instead, yeah, it resets and we get this weird Splinter Cell, Tom Clancy crew coming in, and then we get, yeah, a revenge tale that just doesn't doesn't do us any good because this apes its previous films in its pacing issues.
Yeah, it kind of, in my view, deconstructs Caesar as the evolving heroic figure who wants to just do right and save his people. And he backslides character-wise in this movie. And I understand the reason that they give him for being filled with revenge feelings is totally valid. It's perfectly understandable. But like you said, I would have really liked Dawn as a stopgap middle movie in the sign of this trilogy, because one thing Dawn did great at the end, especially, was show us what the apes are capable of when they threw down, and how the humans weren't quite as on par as they thought they were going to be. And those were, to be fair, in Dawn, untrained civilians who had cobbled together some weapons and some stuff. But at the end of that movie, the army's coming. But we saw those humans get their asses handed to them by the apes. So,
and if those humans that survived then maybe started the militia we see in this one, there would be an arc and an understanding. But no, everyone's dead. We're starting over. Who knows where we're even at the beginning of this movie?
Yeah, it is a little confusing, but luckily they give us a sort of Star Wars crawl at the beginning of this movie that they have not given us in any other movie to kind of catch everybody up.
And they put in bold words like Dawn.
Yeah, that was a nice marketing touch that I'm sure somebody with Adobe Premiere went back into the footage and was like, highlight. Highlighting is good. Highlight some more.
Oh, Bill. Well, at the end of this movie, I'm just going to break it to everyone now. Like, we're going into a fourth potentially in a couple of years, and Caesar leads his people after defeating the militia and then creating an avalanche to take out the army to their promised land. And what you'll hear from every reviewer who ever wrote about this movie or did a YouTube video, much like Moses gets them to safety. I don't know, Bill, the last time you cracked open the good book, but like, it ain't Charlton Heston movie. It's pretty boring, and I don't think we need to necessarily model this off of it.
No, and I get why people have done that. I get the religious overtones, but I don't see that in this movie, mainly because that's not the story they tell. As again, by making the apes sort of secondary activists in this movie, many, many things happen to these apes, and they do respond to some of the things that happen, but they are largely reactive to what is happening around them. And the movie is not nearly as dynamic as reviewers or the back of the box or other people would have you believe. I will say this: technologically, film, photography, effect, everything looks great.
Yes.
Especially the effects. The apes in the third movie look better than they ever have in any way, shape, or form. And they looked good to start with. So there is a ton of awesome stuff and filmmaking happening. It's just the story that kind of drops it. And you don't, in my mind, see them as, they're not even really refugees, because they're fighting, but then they run because they think they're outmatched, which is fine. The apes do, but then they get caught up with these armies, and then they're just prisoners for 3/4 of the movie, and then they're trying to get out. So,
and there's also not a lot of talking.
No, there's not a lot of talking, but there is more ape talking. Caesar's speech has developed to, he's basically speaks like a evolved human does, and there are more of it, and I love that. I loved watching the apes finally talk, because now everything started to feel more peer-wise, and it made them, in my mind, more dynamic and more dangerous to the humans, because they aren't just dumb animals. Let's face it. I have a cat, and I like him very much. He's kind of dumb. It's just the way he is. But if he started talking tomorrow, things are going to change around the house. I can guarantee you that. So
totally, it would be your cat that would be the one saying that things have got to change.
Probably, and then he would fall over and flop in the hallway and start licking himself, which would undermine his argument. But
yeah, well, more on that later. Bill, I think we've exhausted this. We should probably go into our first segment, evolutionary studies. Now, of course, this is, as everyone knows, where we're going to talk about maybe some of the things that maybe shocked us, maybe some trivia, stuff that jumped out to us. We were studying this film. Bill, you want to go first? You give me one, and then I'll go after you.
Sure. My first one is kind of a reactionary one. There are a lot of scenes. They shot a lot of outdoor scenes again, a lot of motion capture. They really ramped it up even farther with this movie. And Andy Serkis and the actors did a ton of things. They did a lot of physical things that you probably would never have seen before. Certainly things you wouldn't have seen people in the monkey suits of the 60s do.
Yes.
But there is a point where Caesar is captured and he is in the enemy camp, and they kind of string him up to what is essentially a big cross. That's an X in the middle of the compound. They've got him tied out in public, as you do in these movies.
Dude, they look very similar to the Planet of the Apes ones.
Yep, they are modeled after the ones that you see in that movie. And of course, they're treating him bad. And at one point, the traitor Gorilla Red comes over and throws a bucket of water on him in the middle of the night, and they're in the mountains. It's freezing and there's a lot of snow. Everything's supposed to be cold. Well, it turns out that they were supposed to heat up the water that they pour on Andy Serkis in this scene, and the crew forgot to do that.
Of course.
So
maybe they did, and then it was sitting there for more than 10 minutes.
And I
because
remember,
it's a film set.
Could be. And as I'm watching this scene, when this happens, I was like, man, he really sold that moment. And now I know why, because that was a real moment. It's another one of those actor moments that they just can't fake. And I guess he wasn't upset with them because it was an accident, but it also looked really great on film. So they kind of let it slide. And I just got to be like, if you're trying to go up there and film in the snow and stuff, there's got to be just more stuff like that happens every day, just trying to get by in these weird suits with ping pong balls strapped to the sides of them all the time. So that was
not to mention being sweaty and stinky.
That was a funny moment that I read about. That's just like, yep, you got to remember that this is make believe, and there's a bunch of crew people, and not everybody gets the memo that the water needs to be hot.
Yep. Another one that I saw that is Andy Serkis related, actually. While they were promoting Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Serkis was asked by a journalist if the drug that affected the apes to make them smart had affected any other apes outside of Caesar's tribe. And, there was no direct answer for it because he was Andy Serkis promoting, the current movie. And then Matt Reeves and Mark Bomback took note of that question, which led to the creation of Bad Ape in this movie, where he was this outside smart ape that can talk that we're just meeting. And I just have to say, I hope that journalist got a writing credit in this movie if by prompting them with a question, it led them to go, you know what? We haven't really thought about that. Maybe we should introduce it into a movie, which also I think goes to show you why maybe this movie missed the mark in a couple of places. I
think so too. There's a point we'll get to later where I think I can expound on that. But I am with you, Rob. I do think that is a real telltale sign of, no idea is not worth stealing when it comes to filmmaking.
Oh, yeah. What else do you got?
So in this movie, the character of Koba, Caesar's rival and enemy from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, they bring him back. And apparently there was an idea before this movie got started that maybe Koba had survived his giant fall off the building and he's too good a villain. We hadn't really said he was dead, so let's think about it. And the filmmakers did something which I'm going to really applaud them for, is they decided that no, his story's over. And I think it's real easy a lot of the times for them to like, hey, that character really sold. Let's figure out a way to bring it back. And it clunks and it bumps and it rarely comes out well. And they didn't do that, but they did bring him back. But as a hallucination, a figment of Caesar's imagination, the part where he has to deal with the feelings and the thoughts and realizing that, Koba had a reason to be upset. He had a reason to hate humans. He wasn't wrong in the things that had been done to him. He just was wrong in his murderous tendencies, and he sees what drove him. So it's really interesting that they've brought him back in a way that they could use this character have new footage, use the same actor and do all this stuff and do it in an interesting way that wasn't cheesy, wasn't dumb, and really was a great element. He's not overused. He's not in there a ton of stuff, but he comes at certain points when you're like, at least that, and it helped to ground Caesar's thinking and kind of his revenge plot for me, because he's been pushed way far and now he's starting to see how bad things can go by remembering his old enemy. So props to them for using it in a way and not just doing the cheesy, oh, guess what? Dun, 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 he's still alive.
Yeah, being used as a manifestation of Caesar's like guilt and like struggle and like, I don't want to fight anyone, but like these motherfuckers keep pushing me to the edge.
Every time I think that I'm out, they pull me back in. So yeah.
With more bananas.
Yeah.
The last one I have here, Bill, is that I found it very interesting in my research that Steve Zahn admitted in an interview that he cried after seeing the completed film for the first time. The one thing left out of this piece of trivia is, why did he cry?
It's important information.
I can't imagine he cried because of the emotional pull, but it is sad to see Caesar go. It sucks, but I just think a lot of the emotional tugging on this movie was not earned. But, I get the ending was relatively heartfelt, but I can't imagine anyone crying over any Planet of the Apes movie.
No, maybe if you're directly involved with it because you're proud of your work, but I can't say that it evoked tears of sadness for me. It did make my eyes squint a little bit because it's a long movie and I got a little bit bored with it after a while.
Oh, man. Well, should we move on to the next subject? The next segment, as it were?
I think we should swing into the positive part of our analysis of this movie. Let's go to a segment we call Oohs and Ahs. Rob, this is where we pick out some things that we like or that amused us, a couple of standout moments from the movie that really got to us. Do you have one for War for the Planet of the Apes?
One thing I really liked is that the intro of each movie set the stage in a similar way. So like Rise, it was humans hunting apes. Dawn, it was apes hunting deer. And then War was humans hunting smart apes again. And it's all kind of this like foresty sort of vibe. And it brought me back each time. I was like, okay, I remember the last one. Now we're getting into it. It was a good like table setting. How about you? What was an ooh or an ah for you and ya?
So there is a scene in this movie where the apes, Caesar and his party, go on a horse chase through the snowy mountains. It turns out the character they're chasing is actually Bad Ape. He has kind of wandered upon them and he's stolen one of their horses and took off with it. And we don't really know that. It could be a human, could be anybody. But this horse chase is great. And I did find out that this horse chase also real to the point where, you assume some CGI these days, especially when you see apes riding horses through the woods in the snow. And of course, the apes are CG'd, taking them out of the equation. These were real actors in suits and real horses, and it looks fantastic. And I wanted so much more of this stuff because this is kind of what I wanted. I wanted out of this movie epic ape action. And it's a short scene, and it's not the apes versus the humans, but it's great. And to see them charging through the trees and the snow line with their guns and going after some stuff, it was great. And I would love to have seen more of this kind of thing permeate this movie. And sadly, we don't get it, but this scene looks amazing.
Yeah, I agree. Looked great. The next thing I have for an amusing moment is pretty simple. For as off the mark as this film is, the world of the film felt more involved. The previous movie really felt very scatterbrained. Like, why is this group of people here by this dam so close to the apes they don't want to be with? I know they discovered the dam for water power, but like, you're also living just fine without it, but this one kind of goes to show you, like, there are organized groups, and even in those groups, they are fighting with one another. Very Last of Us, very Walking Dead, very, like that sort of thing. And, even to extrapolate further, like as we watch the apes, like try and get to their oasis, it looks good. We see these larger scale areas. We get like snowy mountains. We get stuff that we just hadn't seen yet. And I enjoyed that.
there's some great photography in this movie. They've shot some really good stuff. And I'm with you. It does feel nice that they open up the world and you know that there is more out there. And there's clearly a military human presence out there that could, I don't know, start a war with the apes that we could have watched if this movie had been something different. But it is nice that everything opens up and you're not just stuck with a pocket of people in one spot. It's much more than that. So I agree with you totally. I think that's awesome.
Well, Bill, what else do you have before I get your champ chimp?
I get to say 2 words that I never thought I'd get to say at any point in this project when we started it. Weaponized poop. There is a scene in this movie where Rocket, one of Caesar's most trusted lieutenants, they are stuck behind the wall in the military compound of the colonel. They've all been captured. They're in their pens. They're in their Stalag 13 encampments. And it's time to break out. And in the ever popular get the guards' attention trope, they've done it a million ways in the past. But unlike Sergeant Schultz in a candy bar, Rocket gets his attention by flinging a big old pile of poop right at his head and smacking him hard. And I laughed heartily at this because this is a real thing. This is what apes do. It happens at the zoo all the time. I have an old boss that has a wonderful story about going to the zoo when he was a kid in high school and the apes just pelting those kids with that stuff. So I'm like, well, of course, but these are evolved apes. So, they know Rocket knows exactly what he's doing. And when you finally go down, the guard goes in to see him and he's like, who did that? As if the apes are going to raise their hands. But Rocket proudly stands up and grins and just takes responsibility and hits him again. Oh, it was the best part of the war for me right there. Rocket won the war with one fling of his weaponized poop. It's damn ludicrous, but my God, it made me smile. So good for Rocket.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. I love that they used it a couple of times. Really just brought a little bit of levity in the film when it needed it. And pretty realistic, quite frankly.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if that was CGI, but I don't know how far they took it for real.
All right, Bill, let's see here. My champ chimp. Mm-hmm. Let's just both say ours at the count of 3, and then we can give our reasoning. So 1, 2, 3. Bad Ape. Yep. Why don't you tell me why you thought Bad Ape was a champ chimp?
Bad Ape, played by Steve Zahn. I mean, how can you not love Steve Zahn in almost anything? And in lieu of him being in the submarine, I think this is one of the best things I've seen him do. He just plays an amazing character. Bad Ape has great expressions. He's relatable. He's scared when he needs to be. I mean, he's somewhat, when you meet him, seems a little dumb is the wrong word, but just kind of not quite there. But you realize that's not really the case. He's got a lot of heart. He's got emotions that are reasonable when things happen. Like we basically follow along with him through the end part of this movie. He doesn't want to go where the bad things are. He doesn't want to get shot at. He doesn't want to be hurt, but he's doing what he can to help out. And he's hilarious in a good way. Like, even when he pratfalls, it's good natured. He's not a character to point at and make fun of. Like, you can all see us all if we were there. Like, yeah, I'd probably fall in the river too and fall in the sewer and do all these things. And he emotes so well. Steve Zahn's emotions come through the motion capture, and you just want to root for the guy. When they all leave to go and find the encampment, he knows where the colonel's base is, and it's cold. He comes out of the house and he's dressed. He's wearing a coat. he's very much like a human in that sense, and it just grabs you. And it's not played for dumb laughs. It's just like, oh, well, of course he'd put on a coat because he knows what a coat is, and it's cold. So that's why I think he's just a wonderful addition to this movie. If it's not going to give me more big time war movies, then I'm glad they gave us a fun character like Bad Ape to watch for the stuff that we do get.
I'm with you on all of that. I also think that it was just the right move that they needed to let us know that it's more than these like 30 apes that are with Caesar that are affected. I think something that probably could have been introduced last movie. More on that later. Bill, why don't you for now tell me what's been driving us bananas?
Well, driving me bananas section of this part where we talk about a few things that we just couldn't deal with and we just didn't like very well. I got a big one, and it hit me right at the start of the movie, and it actually made me very concerned that I wasn't going to like this movie at all. When we first see the soldiers on screen as they're trekking through the woods to confront Caesar's.
I know what you're about to say.
Yeah, to confront Caesar's group for the first time. You see the soldiers from the rear, they come into frame, so you see the back of their heads, and on all of their helmets, they have ape hate graffiti written on their helmets. And it is so stupid. It's just the dumbest thing because this is now the mid 2020s. And the one I really remember is one of their helmets says bedtime for Bonzo.
Yep.
That's the insult that this person writes, who I out at this point would not know who Bonzo was. Why is this here? You wrote something that you should have no knowledge of whatsoever. And it's just the dumbest thing. And it automatically makes me hate everybody I see coming on the screen as a human because they're just caricature soldiers who just fuck everybody, kill them all now. That's the ones you cannot care about. You can't empathize with them. And so great. The movie started, and already now that we've got a major, what clearly is supposed to be a professional human military presence, that's the introduction we get to them of just stupid shit written on your helmet. So that really put me off hard.
That's a 1951 movie.
Mm-hmm.
And this takes place 2 decades after the first movie, which was late 2000s in its timeline anyway.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
The thing that's driving me bananas, Bill, the first one is very similar to yours. Like, yes, that started me off in a way where I was like, oh, as I said before, like, I like that all these movies kind of start the same way. And then you see that helmet creep up. And I was like, oh, what? Oh, my God. Okay. And there's this like kind of like quasi, sometimes there's something where like this would be clever put in there. And sometimes, quite frankly, it's a Bad Ape line.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more acceptable with Bad Ape because he is this like clown character throughout the movie, but like it still pangs a bit with him. But this hits hard as like, what tone are you setting for this movie in the first 10 seconds of it?
Yeah.
And if it were to just be there, I can maybe have passed it out. But like then later on in the movie, they're in the sewers and there's a big graffiti of Ape Apocalypse Now. And like you said, just none of it's earned. No. Like even Apocalypse Now is a 1979 film. We think that humans that are in their, hell, I'll give them to their 40s. Right? In this film, in the 2040s, are going, hey, remember that 1979 film, Apocalypse Now? That was a war movie? Well, we're kind of in like a war element and apocalyptic world, and there's apes. I'm going to spray paint Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Like, here's what it is. The writing on the helmet, the graffiti on the wall, comes from a place of, doesn't this look cool before, why would it be done?
Agreed.
I would much rather, in the Full Metal Jacket parlance of it, the Born to Kill, right?
Right.
If it would have said Born to Kill Apes, I would have accepted it a little bit more. But something like Bedtime for Bonzo.
So bad.
Come on.
It's so
Ape
bad.
Apocalypse Now. It's uncomfortable how bad it is.
Yeah. And when you texted me when you saw that part in the movie, and I remember looking at it going, yeah. And then I was like, who stopped to write that in the first place? Who stops in their escape tunnel to make, wait, I got to get this quip out before we head on down, everybody. No, it's ridiculous. I'm totally in agreement.
They've got time to do what?
Yeah.
Well, Bill, let me just tell you my second one real quick. Because I want to know if you feel the same way. It drove me bananas that we get to the third movie and the pacing is still off. Like, these movies do not know how to like keep our attention. Every 20 minutes, something should have been happening where we're like, I'm back in, especially when there's not a lot of dialogue. How about you? Did you feel that way?
Agreed. This movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and it is a long 2 hours and 20 minutes. Again, you could have cut 20 minutes out of this movie easy just by shortening some of the getting there scenes. It's just, they're always going and they're going and they're going. And the movie languishes sometimes for the wrong reasons, I think, in its lovely settings and its lovely scenery and its lovely photography, but it's too much. We don't need it. And there's not enough story there to warrant all of this time that's spent on just going. We know what's happening. We know what happens at the fight. And now Caesar wants to go find the colonel and kill him. That's the story. There's no more in the middle. And the largest part of this movie up to that point is just them getting there. I get it. He's pissed. He's upset. He's doing the things. But
if we get it from a purely marketing sense on this, Bill, this movie could have made a killing releasing a director's cut. Where you add in the half hour of Quest for Fire in here, you know? Like,
right.
Shorten this thing, honestly, shorten this movie to an hour and a half, and you would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Same with the last movie, and honestly, same with the first one.
Yeah, it would have picked up the pace. It would have shortened a lot of it. It would have made it feel more like a war movie, as is in the title, because you would have gotten to the action a lot quicker, and you just don't need that much explanation. So, yeah, pacing is just a real downfall with these movies, in my opinion, and it seems like in yours too.
Yeah. Well, who's your dirty ape?
My dirty ape is something I wrestled with for a moment. I just want to say my original pick was Red, the traitor gorilla, but
he's a victim of circumstance.
He's a victim of circumstance. And then I realized, no, I hated him because the actor did exactly what he was supposed to do and created a character that I didn't like. And so I had to swing back to an actor who created a character that I really didn't like and didn't like how he did it. And sadly, that's Woody Harrelson as the Colonel for me. Yikes. He comes on screen and he is seen at the beginning as he raids the compound at Caesar's. He kills Caesar's wife and his firstborn son.
Raiding the compound at Caesar? What is this, me on a weekend at Vegas?
Yeah, and he's got these crazy eyes. And
you didn't like that joke, did you?
I didn't. I'm not sure I understood it. So
raiding the compound at Caesar's, me on a weekend in Las Vegas.
Oh, well, of course. That's on me for killing that one. I'm guilty of that.
I'm sorry. I interrupted why you didn't like Woody Harrelson.
I think it's partly because I got to thinking about his crazy eyes when we see him first, and it kind of blanked me out again for a second.
Yeah.
So I don't really know why he thought this was a good idea, but he wears sunglasses at night. One of the things I can't stand when a character does, it's so stupid. And I hear the Corey Hart song and another play on Apocalypse Now. It feels like he's channeling Robert Duvall from Apocalypse Now, plus Taxi Driver with his shaved head and I kind of love the smell of burned ape in the morning, napalm looking stuff. He's not interesting. He Bond villains around and you hate him because he does hateful things, but he doesn't do it with any style or any flair.
He's also stupid.
He's an idiot.
We haven't even talked about like the evolution of the disease, of the virus. He picks up a doll with blood on it.
Yeah. And
come on.
Yeah. The doll. And if we haven't pointed out, the virus has evolved. And now we're getting to where the humans who have survived are starting to devolve and lose the ability to speak, i.e. the humans that you see in the original Planet of the Apes. They cannot speak and are more primitive. And so the simian flu has changed and upped the stakes for the humans. But he's building a wall to keep the other elements of the army out who don't want him because he's gone rogue. But he monologues finally in the middle and explains all this to us.
Sure, thank you.
In a 20-minute snooze fest of just talking to Caesar, where this could have been done a lot of different ways. And he's supposed to be this grand military feature. He kind of looks like the Emperor or Darth Vader when they see him as he's addressing the troops, but we don't see where he's done anything. We don't see him do anything other than parade around. So he's not a good villain. He's definitely not a foil for Caesar. He's just got more people to hold Caesar down physically so that he can't turn loose and basically hit him in the head or have Rocket fling another weaponized poo bomb at him. He falls completely flat for me in this movie. And since he's supposed to be the main villain, that is not a good thing.
Yeah, Bill, ding, ding, ding. I also have Woody Harrelson as my dirty ape. For every reason you said, we don't know anything about this guy, yet he's a big bad to both apes and the army. Like, I feel like maybe we would have heard whispers of his name.
You would think, I'm going to do this one thing, quick rewrite on the fly, and you tell me if it's a good idea. This movie instead is Woody Harrelson as a military man. He's trying to, in an armed conflict with Caesar for 3/4 of this movie. And at the end of the movie, we are introduced to the idea that humans are devolving.
Yeah.
And we see a war along the way. And then, I get it now. This has gone horribly bad for you humans. You're in big trouble. And we could have seen the story happen instead of being told what the story was going to be.
Bill, I'll do a rewrite even further. This movie should be merged with Dawn.
Ooh.
And a lot of Dawn could be merged with, like the first half of Dawn could be merged with Rise. And the second half of Dawn could be merged with War.
I like it.
Shorten them both down to 1.5 to 2 hour movies. And then if you do need a third movie, that's whatever this Kingdom one is in the future. Because what the hell is going to happen in a fourth movie at this point if each one of them is so off kilter going forward? The other thing is, did you happen to hear anything about this new trilogy of the Halloween movies with Jamie Lee Curtis that came out over the past 6 years?
I've heard some things. I know that they existed, and I think they've done some reboots to the timeline.
So first of all, listeners, I'm going to spoil portions of it, but here's the thing. Timeline-wise, whatever. They cut out a lot of movies that didn't make sense, and they just went from the original to these three, right? But in the last one, Halloween Ends, they introduce an antagonist named Corey who teams up with Michael Myers and is learning from Michael Myers. And at the very beginning of the movie, does this flashback to a couple of years prior. So we're okay, so this flashback happens when the first of this trilogy happened. And it's much like Planet of the Apes, a lot of people really had thoughts on each individual film, but they did not plot this trilogy out. Planet of the Apes was not plotted out as a trilogy. It was just, where do we pick up from here? What can we do? And so to know that this fourth one's coming, if I'm still skeptical, but to know that it's coming is a little bit worrisome, because the Halloween franchise, I think, could be edited into one film. You don't need all the things that happen to it. And quite frankly, like I said with these, you probably could edit them all into one film. And that, I think, is saying something. You don't need all the story elements. I recently, this will date the podcast a bit, but I recently entered a question into the Greatest Gen Q&A. Mm-hmm. That was would Adam and Ben ever want to do a fan edit of Star Trek Discovery or Star Trek Picard? And they had a lot of good reasons on why they didn't think it could happen. But the big thing for me is it definitely could happen. You could do it. You just take a lot of story elements out, and you just don't get maybe some parts of these things that added 6 extra hours or 40 extra minutes.
Agreed. If you cut out a lot of things that duplicate is one, when you have the same story beat over. And for me, cut out the parts where the character learns, relearns, unlearns, relearns, learns, and unlearns a lesson. They don't need to do the same thing 10 times and learn the same thing 10 times. They should be evolving and moving the story forward. The story should always be moving forward. And the characters are characters for a reason. They can have dramatic things. Caesar's part of his family being murdered is a big pivotal moment. It could easily change how that character reacts. He could have become more savage in a war against the humans, and there could be some stuff there. But he turns on a dime and becomes a revenge-driven ape who, in intentionally sends his people off with no leadership. So, yeah, I'm with you, Rob. I think, like most things, you've created probably 8 hours of film here, all in all, and you've shot a lot more. I like your idea that these 3 movies could be made into 2 movies, and you could do one more movie that's actually the apes versus whatever's left of the army, or showing them getting the upper hand, and that could be Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, if in my view.
Well, Bill, let's move on to, taking care of monkey business. You could do a lot of things with this movie, but just to cap it, my final thoughts. The thread of this trilogy has come completely unraveled. The apes are looking for a promised land. At the end of the last film, they were preparing for war, but also there's interpersonal problems between humans and then interpersonal problems between apes. Also, the flu de-evolves the humans. That's thrown in there, like you said, in a 20-minute monologue. It seems like no one knew what they were getting into and still want a 4th film. Where do we go to keep this connecting to the original series of films? But we kind of didn't do anything until this movie to make that happen. It's all very uncomfortable and just piecemeal. It's like it's a movie written by a committee, And I really feel like the problem with these movies has been that they've taken themselves way too serious. I said it before, you don't have to make Full Metal Jacket with apes. You just have to make a Planet of the Apes prequel trilogy. 1 million monkeys typing on 1 million keyboards in this one. But the special effects continue to be pretty darn good. It is a madhouse for me.
It is for me too, Robs. Positive note, these are movies, and these are spectacular blockbuster popcorn movies, and you'll get some stuff out of it if you watch these movies. I think you'll probably get more out of these movies if you're maybe not so involved or not that knowledgeable of what come before, and just start from the beginning. You can find a lot to play with. But yeah, I'm with you, especially your thoughts about a movie by committee. I did find a note that said Reeves and Baumbach, Matt Reeves, the director, Baumbach, one of the writers, they watched a ton of different movies.
I saw that too.
They watched war movies, encampment movies. They watched everything from Empire Strikes Back. By their own admission, they watched a ton of movies to draw inspiration from. And I think that was a big part of what caused them to miss the mark. I think they incorporated all these elements in, and war is kind of the only thing that got left out. I see The Great Escape. I see The 10 Commandments. I see all the World War II movies. I see some crazy stuff at the end, which doesn't make a lot of sense when the two groups come together, because the other American is the American army at some point that comes to raid the colonel's compound. You don't even really know who they are, why they're there. It's just all lost to me. And Reeves even said that the introduction of Bad Ape was, as you said, was meant to widen the possibility for future sequels by showing what else is out there. And that is always a red flag for me, because it feels like the filmmakers have already kind of stopped thinking about the story that they're supposed to be telling for the movie they're making, and they're already on to what they want to talk about later. And that will always shortchange the product that you're on. So if you're just in a constant state of setting up the next one, you're not really concentrating on making this one the best thing it can be. And by them just kind of spreading themselves real thin on the concept, I think the overall point of it, just like you said, the idea of the apes and the conflict and what goes into creating the world that we see in Planet of the Apes, is lost, to the point where I am concerned about Kingdom, because if you've told the prequel story, which they've said they've done, what is there left to do but remake Planet of the Apes and call it Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? And now you're not doing anything at all new or showing me anything I haven't seen. So hopefully that's not the case. Maybe they can put some apey goodness into this 4th movie if it gets made, and it's just a romp'em stomp'em rock'em sock'em apes fest. But we didn't get it with the 3 movies that we've watched so far, and that is sad. There's a lot to like about these movies, but overall, not the story, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Bill, I'm really looking forward to our next film. I think we're going to have a breath of fresh air going into a different style of film, a different era of film, but a continuation of our story.
It's always fun to revisit the thing that started it all, and I find it mildly amusing, at least, to say that you and I are going to have to go into the past of filmmaking to see the future of this franchise that we're leading into. The irony is not lost on me, and I think we're going to have a good time from here going forward. I would be willing to bet on it.
Yeah, I'm going to bet on it too, and you can bet on it as well, audience members. And the best way you can do that is by continuing to support this podcast. We know you're doing it right now, and we really appreciate it. Things have changed. We've got this great little feed that you're listening to the show on, and the best thing you can do to continue helping, you're already helping a boatload, a banana boatload.
There it is.
But if you would like to help even more, you can let other people join in on this cool Bill and Rob's Club by texting this episode to a friend. There's also ways that you can buy Bill and Rob shirts. You can leave us messages in the comments so that we can answer those questions, and you can follow us on social media everywhere. The @handle is Bill and Robs. Bill, thanks again for another terrific episode, and thanks to Draxium and Dr. Z for the theme song, and everyone else who's thrown their name in the hat to help us out with all sorts of things. But Bill, thank you especially.
Well, thank you, Robs, and thank you to everybody out there. As to echo what Rob said, please share. That's the best thing you can do. We want to do a lot more of this. We want to reach a lot more people, and we need the support of our friends. We don't have fans, we have friends. So please, friends, let everybody know that we're doing a show and get the word out. That would be amazing for us. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on this, Rob. I know that you've got a banana split, and so do I. So until next time, I will see you at the Planet of the Apes.
Bye, Bill.
Bye, Robs.